Broadcasting live from Governor's Cigar and Pipe in Monroe's historic Garden District and hosted by the radio people's Griffin Scott. Welcome to Talk 540 KMLB's Coffee with the Candidates.
Hello and happy Friday, everybody. I'm Griffin Scott, live from Governor's Cigar in the heart of Monroe's historic downtown Garden District. This is our second in a three-part series, Coffee with the Candidates. Last week we kicked things off talking to two Monroe City Council candidates. We're going to kick off our series with Monroe mayoral candidates today. I'm joined, first of all, we're going to introduce you to Dr. Ray Armstrong, who is running for Monroe mayor. Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning, Griffin, and good morning, Monroe.
Thank you so much for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
I'm pleased to be here. Thank you.
Also joined by a longtime colleague of mine, an old friend. In fact, I used to work for him a long time ago and call him boss back in the day, as the kids say. Bob Lennox, who is an old radio guy, but today he is here representing the News Star.
Yeah, thank you, Griffin. Good to be with you. Kind of like old times here, but definitely looking forward to the conversand with Dr. Armstrong.
And you remember how to wear the headphones?
Yes, I do.
He remembers how to wear the headphones.
Took me a moment.
It all comes back to you. All right, and of course, we provided four subjects that to all the candidates that we're going to talk about a little bit today. I'm going to toss out the subject and ask for your platform, Dr. Armstrong, on these subjects and your feelings. And then Bob's going to have a follow-up question for you.
Very good.
And let's go ahead and just before we jump into those subjects, though, let's talk about and before we talk about Dr. Ray Armstrong, Monroe mayor candidate, let's tell the folks who Dr. Ray Armstrong, Monroe citizen, is.
Ray Armstrong is a surgeon. I was born in Louisiana, lived here all my life. I went to Georgia Tucker, went to Neville, went to LSU undergraduate in Baton Rouge, LSU Medical School, trained at the Oxford Clinic. I was a practicing surgeon in Florida and have been back in Monroe for 16 years. I practiced here for 5 years before retiring 10 years ago.
What type of, what field, medical field, what was your specialty?
Surgery.
Surgery.
Yes.
But just any kind, like get my kidneys out or I need a transplant. What type of specifically? Or just...
Well, general surgery includes some head and neck work, thyroid, includes breast cancer, abdominal surgery, ulcers, hemorrhoids, colon cancer, pancreatic cancer, that kind of thing.
All right. Well, fascinating. And you've got a little experience in the political field. You served on the Monroe City Council for a time, correct?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's jump right into it. As I said, we provided the candidates with a list of subjects that we wanted to talk about today. And the first one, let's talk about police. Let's talk about public safety in Monroe. If Dr. Ray Armstrong is elected mayor, what's your platform? What are your plans, public safety-wise?
Well, crime is a problem in Monroe. And people keep trying to sweep it under the rug, but people who come to Monroe can look on the internet and they can find that Monroe is a dangerous city, more dangerous than the city wants to admit. That has to be fixed. And you need to start with the root causes of crime. You need to address the things that we can do now, and we need to look at the generational solving of the problems with crime. And that relates to education and poverty and jobs, infrastructure, and all those kind of things. There's a social restructuring of crime, as we all see, in the whole country. And we need to be on top of that to make sure that the police continue to have the confidence of the public and in public safety. But this opens up all kinds of opportunities for improvement of our city. This can be done, and I will do it.
All right, and we're talking to Dr. Ray Armstrong here, Coffee with the Candidates on Talk 540 KMLB. We're live at Governor's Cigar and Pipe in the heart of Monroe's historic Garden District, right here on North 3rd Street. And Dr. Ray Armstrong, for a follow-up question, we're going to turn to my colleague Bob Lennox from the News Star.
Yeah, thank you, Griffin.
Morning, Bob.
Good morning. Good to see you, Dr. Armstrong. You talk about policing, and we talk about the crime strategy plan that you put out, a 6-point strategy. One of the items that you have revolves around community policing. I'm just curious to know, what are your ideas? We've seen neighborhood watches come and go. We've seen different efforts within neighborhoods that have tried to develop a community policing effort. Really, it's kind of been ebb and flow. Some have stayed, and while others have kind of tapered off. What kind of ideas do you have as far as community policing to really engage the public and to keep those efforts going?
Yeah, and the neighborhood watches are an important part, but they're not the only part of what needs to be done. I think they are very, very important, and I would like to see every neighborhood have community watches. But if you look at the problems in crime, about 85% of people in jail right now are there with drug-related problems. And so in understanding that, we need to look at solving the problems with drugs. We need to attack the drug dealers. We need to look at safe streets. We need to look at lighting, the infrastructure. We need to look at all the things that relate to crime. But something that is so important that is coming out all over the country is the restoring the public's confidence in the police, and that is so important to do that. We have a good police force, and we need to make our police force stronger. We need to put more boots on the ground. But in addition to putting boots on the ground, the police need to develop more and more of a community relationship that the people have a confidence in. It would be so nice if our policemen could walk along any street in Monroe and the people know them by name and they know the people by name. I mean, that will go a long way in helping to stop the crime.
Restoring public confidence
Yes.
to the police force. Where does that begin with an Armstrong administration?
There are many cities that are looking at restoring public confidence, and I've looked at how those things are being done and how they can be done. And so I will do that. There's going to be adequate training of the policemen to make sure that we restore the public confidence, and it involves more of an interaction between the police. It involves more police on the ground, more boots on the ground. So those things need to be done.
All right. And before we go to our next subject, which is going to be education, that's what we're going to talk about. Education next with Dr. Ray Armstrong, who is running for Monroe Mayor. Should tell the folks the election, of course, is March the 5th. That's 2 weeks from tomorrow, I believe.
And early voting starts tomorrow, the 20th through the 27th, except Sunday.
There you go. Thank you very much, Dr. Ray Armstrong. And before we go to our next subject, which again is going to be education, let's remind the folks that we are having our Coffee with the Candidate series here at Governor's Cigar and Pipe. We want to say thank you to Friday and Ashley Ellis for hosting this fantastic event. We also want to thank the folks who are here to providing some great coffee and breakfast this morning. Wayne versus the Winnebago food truck is here. And were you able, Doctor, to get any of that food?
No, but I'm waiting. As soon as this is over, I'm heading over there.
As soon as I know. And that's on one side of the room. We've got the delicious smells of breakfast wafting around. And then on the other side, you might hear an occasional hiss and pour. Union Mill Coffee is pouring up some delicious Morning Joe. So we want to say thank you to them. On to our next subject, Coffee with the Candidates, Talk 540 KMLB. And I'm Griffin Scott, co-hosted with the News Stars Bob Lennox, and we're talking to Dr. Ray Armstrong. Dr. Armstrong, when we talked about your bio when we started, you mentioned the fact that you went to elementary school here, Georgia Tucker right around the corner. You graduated from Neville.
Yes.
So education, of course, very important. It's so important to our small businesses. It's important to our big industries.
Yes.
Here, under Mayor Ray Armstrong, what type of platform do you have in mind for education in Monroe?
The great rocket scientist Werner von Braun said many years ago, in What It Takes to Make a Great City, the very first thing that he said was workforce. And workforce is such a broad term, but it starts with education and the core values that we give our children when they are 2 and 3 years old, and by the time that they get into kindergarten. Then there are after-school programs that have been very, very effective in reducing crime in the participants, reducing teen pregnancy, elevating grade point averages, and putting those kids into jobs and skills. But it is so broad. I mean, we need to look at other things. That there is an overlap between crime and education. For example, at least 50% of the people in prison now, when they get out of jail, they don't have a skill, they don't have an education, and they can't make a living, and so they go back to jail. About 85% recidivism, and so we have an obligation to those people to to educate them, to train them, the GED if that's the appropriate course, or to give them a skill. And in areas where that's been done, about 65% of those people do not return to jail. Jail is expensive, and to keep people out of jail makes our community healthier. And this is all tied into education. But education is Werner von Braun said many years ago. It's the root of our society.
Coffee with the candidates. We're talking with Dr. Ray Armstrong, candidate for Monroe mayor. The subject is education. For a follow-up question, we turn to the New Star's Bob Lennox.
Dr. Armstrong, when we look at the Monroe City Council and we look at the Monroe City school system, some have suggested some type of intervention, some type of partnership. What ideas can the council bring into a conversation with the school board as far as education goes here in our town?
The Monroe City Charter does not allow intervention, but it does allow cooperative ventures with the school board, and I think that's very important because education is so important to our whole community. C, D, and F schools are unacceptable in our area. And so the mayor, the city council, the public, everybody needs to get involved to work with the school board to elevate all of our schools and to elevate education. And when we talked about people who come from outside of the area, when they pull things up on the internet, they look at so many things. They look at crime in the area, but they look at education. And education is so important. They do not want to come to an area that has C, D, and F schools. So it is our obligation to elevate schools everywhere that we can, and the city needs to do everything that it can to work with the school board to make this a better city and better education for our children. Our children are leaving. Our population is dropping. We've dropped almost 8% in population since the year 2000. People are leaving Monroe. Why is that? We need to turn that around and make Monroe better.
Taking that up to the next level as far as higher education, how can the city council work with or better promote our regional universities with everything that's going on right now with higher ed and the state budget?
It is a mess, as everybody knows, in Baton Rouge, and one of the threats is higher education. And I think the city needs to lobby and fight everything they can to do to preserve the funding for our higher education. But there are other things that might be able to be done also. I like the idea of a research park. And there are two specific areas of a research park that ULM can participate in. And if we look at places like University of Wisconsin, they have a technology recovery center. The alumni have come in and they've done technology research. They've taken the inventions, the things that are developed in a university, and they commercialize those things. There is no area to commercialize those things, but if we borrow from other cities and look at research parks, Cummins Research Park has done a phenomenal job in the last number of years, but Shreveport has opened a research park. Starkville, Mississippi has opened a research park. Those things will benefit the university in a number of ways. We need to do everything we can. I would even have to say that ULM it may be more important than any other thing that we have in Monroe, even CenturyLink. And CenturyLink is pretty high up there. I mean, they're phenomenal. We always talk about them. But ULM, we need to do everything we can to strengthen ULM.
All right. And we're again having coffee with the candidates, talking with Monroe mayoral candidate Dr. Ray Armstrong, live on Talk 540 KMLB at Governor's Cigar and Pipe at 1004 North 3rd Street. We've got a great crowd out here today. Before we go on to our next subject, which is going to be public works, let's talk real quick about what a great place Governor's is. Does this it reminds me of an old-fashioned place to come and talk politics, like a diner or perhaps a barber shop type of environment.
And the energy here is just palpable with all of the people that are here, and have come. I mean, I would compliment you for what you've done to bring these people here.
Well, thank you very much. And again, want to thank Governors Friday and Ashley Ellis. Wayne versus the Winnebago is here serving up some delicious breakfast, and we have Union Mill coffee on hand. This event very open to the public, and you still have lots of time to stop by. On to our next subject, Dr. Armstrong, coffee with the candidates. We want to talk about public works, and forgive me, but this is kind of a broad one. We're talking, when we say public works, we're talking about streets. We're talking about, potholes. But we're also talking about our public facility beautification services, our parks, our zoo, and, of course, the Civic Center. What are your plans if Monroe citizens choose you to be their next mayor?
It is a broad topic, and all of the things that you said are very, very important, but because they contribute to the quality of life. And CenturyLink, through the Ouachita Business Alliance, has emphasized the quality of life. But our streets, we do have a tax that funds the repair of streets, and we have to do a better job. It's not just the potholes, but it's also the striping of the streets. That needs to be to be better, to be improved, and that needs to be done. The zoo, I'm glad you mentioned the zoo, because they're great opportunities. The zoo brings in people from outside of Monroe. It can be an economic driver, and we can do better. We can make the zoo a better place. But in addition to that, it says Louisiana purchased gardens and zoo. I have looked into a way that you could do a botanical gardens, and you could do it very reasonably and fairly inexpensive to bring a gardens and zoo to the area. People love their landscaping; they love all of those things, and to have a display, but also to give classes on hanging baskets and propagation and composting and all of those things is very, very important to improving the quality of life and to bringing people from outside of the area. So infrastructure is very important. Lighting is very important. It's been shown that lighting can reduce crime. And especially lighting in hotspot areas. But in the cleanliness, the beautification, I was chairman of the Monroe Beautification Committee for 2 years, and I'm a master gardener, and my wife is a master gardener, and we understand and see the things that can happen. We see the things that people love to get involved with. They love the beautification, and we must do a better job with beautification of our city. I would love to see Monroe, people coming to Monroe and say, the city beautiful, as we borrow that from Orlando and other cities. We can do that, and we must do that.
And Bob Lewis.
Dr. Armstrong, when we look at public works, one of the topics of discussion that has come up recently is water and water quality. As far as that goes, I know that there's been some conversation about expanding the water treatment facility. Do you see an expansion? Do you see the need for an additional facility? Where do you stand as far as water quality in the city of Monroe?
Well, the quality of water is extremely important in this community and any community. And of course, if we look at the problems in Flint, Michigan, we don't have the problems that they had in Flint, Michigan. We have a good quality of water, but people complain about the taste of the water largely because of the chlorine. But in maintaining a good quality of water and a good taste of water, it involves people who are leadership at the top that look at the requirements, the things that are necessary to make it a good quality water, to ensure the good quality water. As far as the quantity of water, part of the reason for the quantity of water and the expansion is going to be because there is water that is being sold to some of the small water companies, and that's important because the city of Monroe makes a profit because we sell at a premium to those people, and it is a profit center, and the city of Monroe needs to look every way that we can to develop things that maintain our infrastructure. The infrastructure needs to be looked at. It needs to be evaluated in a good, solid, studied manner to make sure that we have the best water and we have adequate quantities of water.
And our final subject, coffee with the candidates today, Governor's Cigar in Pipe. It's where we're broadcasting live this morning, rather. And it's one that's very near and dear and it's small businesses. And I say near and dear to our host here today, Friday Ellis. He, of course, has a small business. We've got two other great small businesses represented here in Union Mill Coffee, Wayne versus the Winnebago, a food truck. What are some of your thoughts, your plans possibly for small businesses under a Mayor Ray Armstrong administration?
Well, as I've said many times before, that in most communities, about 85% of the businesses there are small businesses. They don't get the flair, they don't get the excitement that someone big like IBM or CenturyLink gets. But nonetheless, they are the heart of the city, and so things need to be done. They need to be done at all levels. And at one level, the reason why businesses fail is because of lack of a business plan. The ULM has an incubator that can help people, and we need to encourage people to use that. Also, adequate funding is the reason why businesses fail, and so to help people to plan, to train, and to look at sources of funding. Then there are certain areas. There's a closed-down automotive business on 165 that is just a mess, and a number of people have looked at that. Well, that is a small business. Well, one thing that the city could do is they could make it easy for someone to come here. They could incentivize them, and they could go after people to occupy that building and then offer them an incentive. For example, a tax abatement for maybe a 5 or 10 year period of time to incentivize them to come and to fill the needs that there are in the city. The training is going to be very important. When somebody opens up a business here, they want a qualified workforce. We have a good workforce here, but we need to continue to work on that. Delta Community College has great assets to help to train our small business people. So we need to look at all areas to encourage a small business.
You've pointed to the concern that you have that Monroe has one officer for economic development currently. How do you see economic development expanding? What ideas would you bring to further economic development, specifically for those small business owners seeking a license?
Well, the part of the problem that we have is the economic development office is the smallest. He didn't even have a secretary. But we have so much opportunity. We have resources here for economic development. So to expand that department and to give help to that department with qualified people who are out on the streets every day looking at and recruiting businesses to come to this area. I mean, we have available land, and we have people that are willing to expand those the land, expand the buildings, and to offer opportunities for people to come here if they just want to come. So the Office of Economic Development it can be critical. There are grants. There's a TIF funding, tax increment finance funding, as has been done with Tower Armand and with I-20. But in looking at a research park and an industrial park in areas where Monroe in districts 3, 4, and 5 is 57% in poverty. And if you take that information with a plan to community development block grants, they can provide money. They can build even a city with the opportunities, the land, and with adequate planning and leadership. We can have exciting development here.
This has been a great conversation. Dr. Ray Armstrong, who is running for the Monroe Mayor's office. Doctor, we're going to give you voting March 5th. Early voting starts tomorrow. We're going to give you the last word. We got about 20 seconds.
I think it is so important, leadership for the city. We have missed opportunities. Please vote for Ray Armstrong. I have a passion to make Monroe a stronger city, a better city, and I will serve you well.
Thank you very much. Dr. Ray Armstrong. Thank you, Bobby Lennox. Bob Lennox is going to stick around with us for a while. We've got another 30 minutes planned for you. In fact, a little surprise is coming up. It's Coffee with the Candidates live at Governor's Cigar. I'm Griffin Scott, and you're listening to the Radio People's Talk 540 KMLB.
And now, back to Talk 540 KMLB's Coffee with the Candidates, hosted by the Radio People's Griffin Scott, and broadcasting live from Governor's Cigar and Pipe in Monroe's historic Garden District.
Welcome back to Coffee with the Candidates. And Governor's Cigar and Pipe, 1004 North 3rd Street, Monroe's Historic Garden District. I'm Griffin Scott, joined with, alongside my good friend Bob Lennox from the News Star. And we've got to do first a real quick correction. This was originally intended to be 30 minutes that we would spend with Monroe mayoral candidate Holly Dixon. Unfortunately, Ms. Dixon had a scheduling conflict and was unable to join us this morning. So we have actually a great substitute, and we're going to talk about something that's going to be on the ballot coming up in April. Actually, we're joined now. We're talking first with Scotty Robinson, then we're going to talk a little bit later with Walt Caldwell, two members of the Ouachita Parish Police Jury. First up, Scotty, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you, sir?
I'm great. Doing well. How about y'all?
Doing great. Thank you so much, you and Walt, for coming in here on short notice today. We are really, really grateful.
No problem.
And let's just open the floor. Bob's going to have some specific questions for you, but I'm going to toss it out there. Let's talk roads and Ouachita Parish, specifically this proposal on the ballot in April.
Sure. I would say 9 out of 10 of my phone calls have to do with roads in Ouachita Parish. And in District A, which is where I represent, and the other jurors, if you ask them, there's 5 others, I'd say they'd say about the same. Roads are a major problem we've got right now. Our public works department works around the clock, fixing potholes, patching roads, trying to keep them from failing. And we're just trying to do more to the roads, try to make it nicer, better for your vehicles, not as hard on your cars driving around. So the proposal that's out there now, we created an east side and a west side district. And on the west side, we're proposing to roll up the sales tax from 9.6 to 9.99. And on the east side, from 8.6 to 9.99. On the west side, it will, the money, if the proposal passes, it will be dedicated to roads only. It won't go to salaries. It won't go to give people raises. It won't be able to go to any other thing but roads. It is specifically and legally dedicated to roads. On the east side, same case, with the exception they also have the option to spend the money on drainage. So it will go to the roads and drainage. And I'm not saying there's no drainage problem on the west side, but the east side has some pretty major ones here. So that's why their millage also allows for the drainage as well as the roads.
Scotty, in developing this plan, when we look at what's taking place, give us kind of an overview, because I know we talk about overlays of roads, but how much more can be done should this tax pass as far as having, complete road renovations?
Right now we have about $1 million a year on our road program that we spread out over the entire parish, over all 6 districts, about $1 million a year. We get, 2-3 miles of roads done at the max, and that's parish wide. On the west side, if this proposal passes, it'll generate about $1.7 million a year for the west side and about $2.65 million on the east side. And what we would do is sell bonds, bond these out for probably 10 years. And, now we've got $15 to $17 million on the east side, on the west side, and, $20+ million on the east side to do so. You're looking at 10, 15 times the amount of work we're doing right now. It would make a major impact on the roads in Ouachita Parish. Major arterial and collector roads throughout the parish will be it's not something we're going to go fill in more potholes. We're talking about complete redo, overlay roads.
Walt, question for you. Let's kind of take a step back and
we're going to have to swap those out.
I apologize.
That's all right. That's all right. Walt Caldwell from the Ouachita Parish Police Jury. Welcome, Walt.
Good morning.
Yeah. Walt, my question is, let's just kind of take a step back. Let's talk about the road improvement program, because basically the police jury, there's a list that's been compiled of every road in the parish. Give us an idea about how this was put together, and when we look at road renovations, how these roads are identified in the parish.
Bob, first of all, under the state parish transportation fund money that we receive, that's the gas money. When you pump fuel into your car, you pay taxes to the state. A portion of that sales tax comes directly back to the parish. Over the last 20 years, that's roughly been about $1.2 million that we get, and that's the money that Scotty's talking about that we use to do most of our improvements. As part of that statutory basis to do that, we must compile a road list of all of our roads, and then we must prioritize the manner in which they should be repaired. That is done, first of all, on the type of roads. You have arterial roads, you have collector roads, and then you have just rural improved roads. And think about it like this. When you get up in the morning and you get in your car and you back out of your drive and you back onto your neighborhood street, that is your rural improved road. And then you go into another road that carries a whole lot more traffic in your neighborhood, and that's a collector. And then you end up traveling on a road that has a lot of traffic that's, where the speed limits are higher and they're carrying a lot of traffic. That's going to be your collectors. So your collectors are your roads that carry most of the traffic in the parish. And ultimately you'll end up at a state highway, which is maintained by the state. But that's how they're broken down. We actually have an engineering firm come in, put in counters, and they count up the total number of cars that travel across there in a 3-day period, then a 5-day period. Then they actually have an engineer who does nothing but drives every road and rates every road for the condition. They take that information and they compile it, and they sort of put it in an algorithm for the computer to spit out. These are the roads that have the highest traffic count, that need the most repairs, and need to be addressed first. Now, that gives us a ranking and a road list of what we need to address first.
There's real science to this, isn't it?
There is, and it takes the politics out of it. It takes the politics out of it.
Strictly numbers.
It's strictly numbers. But you do have to understand, we do have things that happen. For example, we had a road fail last year, a bridge fail at the Votech School. Well, obviously that had to be addressed, and the issues on the road list had to go down as that was addressed. So, things can happen that alter the priority list. In increasing failure of those roads, if you have one road that may have been ranked 10th or 12th or 15th or whatever, and then all of a sudden it shows a greater breakdown faster, then that's something that we're going to address more quickly.
How did the police jury arrive at the idea for this tax? Because I know there were several options that y'all discussed.
Bob, we've been working on this for quite some time. This was not something that was done overnight. And the police jury had several conversations in our budget committee meetings about, hey, we've got a problem here. How do we address it? And what we ultimately decided was we're not going to be able to do this by ourselves. So what we did was we went to the public. We met with the chambers of commerce. We met with civic organizations. We sat down and we talked to them. And we opened our toolbox. Now, I know we've all had to repair something at your house, and you open your toolbox, and you don't have the perfect set of tools, but you've got a set of tools. And those are the only tools that you can use, because you can't run out and go get something. You've got to use what's in that box. Well, that's kind of how we are. The state provides us certain mechanisms where we can raise revenue, and we don't have other mechanisms to raise revenue. That's all that we've got. And we took those and we talked to each of these different entities and explained what they were. And one of the options we laid out is, hey, look, we just don't do anything. That was one of the options we laid out. And then we laid out different things. We talked about an ad valorem tax, in other words, another property tax. We talked about a structure fee, a parcel fee. We talked about road districts. We talked about raising the franchise fee on electricity. There were a number of things that we discussed over a long period of time with these different entities. And uniformly, what we heard from each of these meetings was that rolling up the sales tax so that basically when you're on Thomas Road in West Monroe and you're paying 9.99% for your groceries or whatever, when you go out into Well Road in the parish, you're going to pay 9.99. Basically rolling it up to match what West Monroe has done, what Monroe has done, what Sterlington has done to address their public works problem. This is exactly the same result that West Monroe came to when they decided that they had public works deficiencies and had some infrastructure issues that they wanted to address. They basically rolled the sales tax up to 9.99%. So, you're already paying the sales tax in the parish. All we're asking is to make it equal to what the cities are collecting at this point in time to address the same issues that the city uses their rolled up sales tax to do as well.
Sounds like you're saying that this is kind of proportional then. This is bringing the parish up where the major cities are located in Washington.
Oddly enough, even though we went out and talked to a lot of people and they said the sales tax was the way to go, it's kind of ironic. It's exactly what both of the cities came up with as well to address their infrastructure issues. So, again, we're doing what West Monroe's done, we've done what Monroe's done, and this is what Sterlington has done. We're basically just following suit to a certain extent. But we did it with a lot of community input. It wasn't a decision that the jury made by itself. It was a decision that we got a lot of community input on. And I can tell you that without a doubt, you may have had some people say, well, I like this idea or I like that idea. But the vast majority, clear majority, was you need to roll the sales tax up.
And the amounts that this is expected to generate for each side?
Yes,
amounts?
sir.
Yeah. What are the amounts that it's expected to generate?
Oh, Scotty gave that just a minute ago. He's so much better than that
Well,
than I am. But I think it's roughly 1.7 million on the west side and 2.65 million on the east side.
So I guess my question is, knowing those amounts, does the east side with that amount, will that allow for more projects, or does it allow for less, given that there is drainage issues? That
As Scotty stated, we have major drainage issues on the east side. That doesn't mean we don't have drainage issues on the west side, but we have major drainage issues. We have 2 projects in the east side, drainage projects that we have some statewide flood control funding for, but we've got to have a match. Unfortunately, we've had to take that match money to fix the Rivers Fix pump station. So we don't have it. But if we are able to roll the tax up to equal out and have this funds available, we should be able to use those funds to make those matches to get 2 very important flood control projects done. I mean, that's just one example of some of the things that we could do. I think if you talk to any juror on the east side, they're going to come up with a list of projects that for drainage in their area. And some are smaller and some are bigger, but those are 2 major projects.
Look, I want to talk real quick, and let's do a quick reset. Coffee with the candidates, Talk 540 KMLB. I'm Griffin Scott, joined by the New Stars Mob Lennox. We're broadcasting live from Governor's Cigar and Pipe at 1004 North 3rd, right here in Monroe's beautiful Garden District. I want to say thank you to Union Mill Coffee. How good does that coffee smell, guys?
Right.
Delicious. And then they're in one corner. The other side, Bob, we've got Wayne versus the Winnebago, and he has put, I believe that they're pork. There's something to do with pork, which is one of my favorite animals of all time. I enjoy it very much. No, so we've got breakfast, we got coffee. This event's still open to the public. Stop by 1004 North 3rd. Coffee with the Candidates is a 3-part series. Last week we visited with 2 candidates for Monroe City Council. Today we talked with Dr. Ray Armstrong, who is running for Monroe Mayor. Originally in this time slot was Holly Dixon, also running for Monroe Mayor, but unfortunately she had a scheduling conflict and could not join us today. I want to say a big thank you to Walt Caldwell and Scotty Robinson, 2 Ouachita Parish police jurors who agreed at literally the last moment to come in and spend 30 minutes with us today talking about a road tax. And that tax, the election day. Maybe we ought to go back to Scotty for this one. Would you mind?
No.
I know what my question is going to be, and then we're going to talk, first of all, the election. What is the date of this election? April?
April 9th, yes, sir.
April 9th is going to be when we're going to talk about this road tax. You guys both mentioned east and west. Talk about where that boundary is. How does that work out?
The Ouachita River separates the 2.
That's the dividing line.
That is the dividing line, yes, sir. And on the west side, it is in unincorporated areas, which means not in the city of West Monroe on the west side. Anything that is on the west side of the river that is not within the city limits of West Monroe, and on the east side is anything on the east side of the river that is not within the city limits of Monroe, Richwood, or Sterlington. That are the areas. Because if you're driving on roads in the city of Monroe, their public works department's taking care of those, and Sterlington and so forth. So it's just parish roads on the east side and the west side.
I think something that needs to be brought up is, we talk about this parish tax and your concerns about what's happening with the state budget right now, the possibility of those matching funds coming from the state, your comments, your thoughts about how that figures into everything that happens with roads in our area.
Yeah, no, that's a major issue right now. Everyone's seen what's going on in the last week with the governor giving his address the other evening and talk about the state raising the 1 cent sales tax we're putting on everybody. And what I've told some people, I told some folks yesterday that the state's trying to raise this 1 cent sales tax to put it on everyone to plug some holes in the boat that they caused. They're just trying to fill the holes and catch it. The police jury, we're not. We're in the black. We're doing good. And as Mr. Caldwell mentioned a few minutes ago, one of our options was to do nothing. And I want to be clear, what that meant was we'll keep patching potholes, using our road program.
That's the essence of what's taking place.
Exactly. We'll keep doing what we've been doing. But if this proposal passes, we can do a whole lot more. And I'm not here to kind of scare anybody. If the proposal fails, that's okay. We're going to keep doing what we're doing. We're going to keep patching potholes and repairing roads and applying for state money if there's any left, asking for federal dollars, saving our money, putting back every year, budgeting a little bit more for match money. So when a grant comes in and says, hey, it's an 80-20 match, we're going to make sure we've got the 20%. We're going to keep putting our money back. Like I said, I can tell you if our proposal passes, the Ouachita Parish Police Jury has on April 9th ballot, I can tell you where it's going to go. It's going to go to roads on the west side, and it will go to roads and drainage on the east side. I can't say the same about the state because I'm not sure where that money's going to go.
As far as this tax is considered in the dedication of those funds, is this going to go towards any new roads or upgrades, I should say, like with gravel roads that would possibly be asphalt or Or is this?
Sure. We actually have a gravel road fund. Not a ton of gravel roads on the east side of the parish, mostly in the west side in District B, which is Mr. Jack Clampett's district. We have over 800 miles of roads in Ouachita Parish, and 350 of them are in District B, Jack Clampett. And I have the second most amount of roads with about 130. And there are a few gravel roads here and there. But, yes, and this money will go to major improvements, major overlays, complete redo of roads, and it will be spread out, parish-wide as far as east side and west side. Depends on where the money came from.
All right, and again, we're having coffee with the candidates, although we're actually talking to police jurors. You guys just ran recently, right? So
yes, sir, we did.
I kind of scared them when I said that. You can see they were like, wait, we're not running yet. We don't have to do that yet. We're with Walt Caldwell and Scotty Robinson from the Ouachita Parish Police Jury. Again, we're at Governor's Cigar, and we want to say thank you, a big, huge thank you to Friday and Ashley Ellis, our host here today. Thank you to Wayne versus the Winnebago and Union Mill Coffee. And thanks also to a great crowd. We've had a fantastic crowd show up here today. Next Friday, we will be back here, and we are going to talk to Monroe Mayor Jamie Mayo and Tremonte Gordon, another mayoral candidate. But that's for next Friday. For now, let's continue our talking public works with, as long as we've got you guys here, Walt Caldwell, Scotty Robinson. Let's talk. Let's swap back out real quick. And again, that noise you might hear, that's totally my fault. I'm a terrible host. We have 4 working headsets, but we only have three working microphones. Again, you don't miss radio at all when stuff like this happens.
It's the nature of the beast, I guess you could say.
Bob Lennox from the News Star is joining us, and you've got a question about levies.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Juror Caldwell. Walt, because this concerns your district, bring us up to date the River Styx levee situation. There was a slide that occurred there on the levee, and right now the police jury is taking immediate action to try to get this project moving forward with repairs to that. Just kind of bring us up to date on what's been taking place.
Our engineers have looked and believed that a potential slide is what may have caused the couplings on the pipes basically to break. The pumps themselves are operational. The pipes themselves are intact. It's just the couplings where they were attached. And we believe that it's almost imperceptible slide at the top of the levee where the valves are may have caused pressure to break those. We have contracted with a firm on an emergency basis to go in and make the repairs. It is going to be a rather expensive repair. The levee itself is fine. It's intact. There's no, even though we're talking about a slide, the levees are intact and they're fine. Tensile levee basin has looked at them. Everything is good there. And as far as we still have the Chauvin pumps, where they're located, they will not come on until you've got about 12 inches more water in the basin than does River Styx. Also, the pumps at Styx are a lot stronger and have a greater ability to drain water. When Styx is running, almost rare, it's very rare that we have to run Chauvin. Chauvin has run in the last couple of years, but it's rare compared to Styx when it's running. But we are going to try and address that as soon as possible because we do recognize that, April and May are your flood months, and we're trying to get ready for that as fast as we possibly can. So that is in position. I can tell you that we have reached out to our federal delegation. I know that Scotty will be meeting with the congressman today. I met with Senator Vitter yesterday. We've been in contact with Senator Cassidy's office, and we're trying to get a federal declaration. The president will not give us one at this time for a federal declaration of emergency so that we could get some help from FEMA. Haven't gotten that, and we're pushing for that. And we appreciate our federal delegation working so hard to help us with that. But we've just not been able to get that done as of yet.
And we are looking for, I know you've been in contact, Neil Brown with the...
Neil Brown's Homeland Security here in Ouachita Parish. And, yes, Neil is, of course, working with GOSEP here, the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, and they of course are trying to push for the same federal declaration to get some assistance from FEMA.
Walk us through that process when the water starts to get high and alarm sounds, and they call you, and what happens?
Well, actually, Tensile Levee Basin does most of that. Okay, that's their charge, is to make sure that those levees are intact, and also to make sure that the flooding doesn't occur. What the pumps primarily do is pump water that is trapped within the walls of the levee out of the walls of the levee back into the river. The structure that we're talking about that there may have been a potential slide with, that actually is the locking mechanism that keeps water from flowing back in. That's where the gates are closed, okay? As the river rises, we begin to close gates to keep water from backflowing from the river into these basins. And after a certain point, if you get enough rain, you'll have water that collects inside these basins that are inside the levees, and you have to pump that water back out. And if you stop and think about it, you know, if you put sandbags around your house and you've got a steady rain, you'll keep the flood water from coming up to your house, but it'll start to flood because of the water that collects inside the levee that you've built. And you have to put a pump in there to pump that water out. It's basically the same idea here, except it's on a much, much, much larger scale.
So in looking at this, right now I know DOTD, are they in the process or will be in the process of creating a go-around in that area?
Public Works is coordinating with DOTD to try and come up with a solution to get around that we're not at the point yet that the construction is going to start. I can tell you that DOTD has been there and been very helpful, been very willing to work with us, and continues to do so. So, you know, everybody is working together on this. It's a bad situation, but I think everybody is doing the best that they can under the circumstances.
Do we know when the water might go down?
Griff, your guess is as good as mine. You know.
He's like, I'm a police juror, not a meteorologist.
And unfortunately, sometimes meteorologists don't always get that right either. So
don't tell them that. It's Coffee with the Candidates, Talk 540 KMLB. Bob Lennox from the News Star joining us here. I'm Griffin Scott from the Radio People, and we are visiting with Walt Caldwell and Scotty Robinson from the Ouachita Parish Police Jury. And again, we're talking about a special roads tax, Bob.
That's right. Of course, and this is going to be on the April 9th ballot, special election that'll be taking place, correct?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And with that, at this point, as far as that tax goes, and that's going to be, again, that's going to be over the next, how many years? Would that be?
It'll be about 25 years. Our engineers have calculated that it will take that long, probably actually longer if we were just to do overlays. We're looking at using a good chunk of that money to do matches from the federal and state. But here's the reality of it, okay? When I came in office in 2004, there were a lot of grant funds. There were a lot of federal funds. That's no longer true. Nobody's going to show up from Washington or Baton Rouge anymore and write you a check and say, here it is. If we're going to do something to improve our roads in Ouachita Parish, this is our opportunity, and we're going to have to do it ourselves. This is the most painless way that we found, and it's the way that you basically had your chambers of commerce throughout the parish, other civic organizations say, look, we think that this is the best way to do it. And we recognize that you have a problem here, and we think this is the best way to do it. So, you know, it's a community solution. It's not a solution that we as an elected body have actually just come up with and said, oh, well, this is what we think we ought to do. We actually went out and talked to people and got their input.
And that was one thing, too, I believe, Walt. There was some conversation about the possibility of the gas tax being increased, but that's something that's not in the police jury's hands, correct?
No, that falls into the state legislature. You know, I'll tell you, they're collecting a lot of sales tax off of gasoline. The state is. But the money that we've been getting back has only been the constitutionally mandated portion that they're required. We're getting the same money from the state off that money that we got 20 years ago, basically. It's not really any different. And you look at inflation, we all know that $1 today is a lot, it's not worth what $1 was 20 years ago. And so we're not able to do as much. And that's really what's happened to us, Bob. If you look at, we've done some pretty heavy analysis on this. And what has happened is, even though our tax revenues have risen, the expenses have far exceeded what the cost or the rise in the revenues have been. And when I came into office, we were able to look at Public Works and say, okay, guys, tighten your belts. Let some people go. Go in there and lease equipment. Don't buy equipment. And we were able to do that for several years and maintain the same level of services. But as the gap widened between expenses and the revenue that we were raising, it's become just about impossible to do that anymore. And we're basically going to come to a point where all we can do is patch potholes in our repairs. And the critical portion of this now is if we don't start repairing these roads and doing the overlays, we're going to have base failures, which are going to cost a whole lot more to fix.
Thank you, Walt Caldwell. Thank you, Scotty Robinson from the Ouachita Parish Police Jury. Again, that special election on road tax is on April the 9th. Thank you, Bob Lennox.
Oh, thank you, Griffin.
It's been too long since we worked together.
Yeah, and we get to do it again next week.
I've known him so long, I used to call him Bobby. Don't do that. Bob Lennox from the News Star. Thank you very much. Thank you to Dr. Ray Armstrong, who joined us this morning for Coffee with the Candidates. Again, next Friday, we'll be back here 8 to 9 at Governor's Cigar and Pipe in Monroe, and we'll visit with Monroe Mayor Jamie Mayo and also Monroe Mayoral candidate Tremonte Gordon. Looking forward to that. Again, thank you, Governor's Cigar and Pipe, Friday and Ashley Ellis. Thank you, Wayne versus the Winnebago, for the delicious breakfast. And thank you, Union Mill Coffee. Thanks to everybody who stopped by. We had a great crowd. We're looking forward to coming back here again next Friday. Until that time, I'm Griffin Scott, and you're listening to Talk 540 KMLB.
Thank you for joining Talk 540 KMLB's live broadcast of Coffee with the Candidates. Talk 540 KMLB, proud to be Monroe's place to talk for over 85 years.